mind that scares people means one thing: you handle pressure so well that others feel weak around you. There was a warrior named Musashi who had this power. He won every fight for 30 years, then wrote down exactly how his mind worked. I studied everything he wrote and found 5 main principles. They work like a combination lock. Each principle turns the next until your mind unlocks a level of strength that makes normal people deeply uncomfortable. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to build the same mental strength that makes people step back when they meet you. Principle 1, the way of walking alone. At 60 years old, Musashi wrote his final work called Dokudo, the way of walking alone. 21 principles for life that most people have never actually read. The title itself tells you everything. The way of walking alone. Not the way of seeking comfort in groups, not the way of needing constant validation, the way of walking alone. In his final years, Musashi chose to live in Rigando Cave, a cold, damp cave where he spent months in isolation. But here's what nobody talks about. He didn't go there to escape people. He went there because he discovered that mental strength only comes when you don't need others to feel complete. Think about your own life. How many decisions do you make without asking someone first? How many times do you check your phone when you're alone for 5 minutes? How often do you need someone else to tell you you're on the right track? This constant need for others creates a fragile mind, because what happens when nobody's there? What happens when everyone disagrees with you? What happens when you have to stand alone? Your mind crumbles. But when you master being alone, really alone with your thoughts, something shifts. You stop needing approval to know you're right. You stop needing company to feel complete. You stop needing validation to trust your decisions. Musashi lived this way for over 30 years, not because he was antisocial, but because he understood that the strongest minds don't need external support to function. Try this tomorrow. Make one important decision completely alone. Don't ask anyone. Don't research what others think. Don't seek reassurance. Just decide. Feel that discomfort. That's your mind learning to stand on its own. When your mind doesn't need others to feel complete, it becomes unbreakable. Because now you're not dependent on something you can't control, other people's opinions. But this independence reveals something else Musashi discovered. Principle 2, becoming immune to pleasure and pain. In Dokudo, Musashi wrote something that sounds impossible. Be indifferent to where you live. Most people read this and think he's crazy, but look at how he actually lived. He slept outdoors in the rain. He owned almost nothing, just his swords and the clothes on his back. He moved from place to place without attachment to any home. Here's another one. Do not pursue the taste of good food. Again, people miss the point. This isn't about punishing yourself or living in misery. Musashi ate when he was hungry. He slept when he was tired. But he never let comfort control him. Think about what controls most people's decisions. They can't take that job because the commute is too long. They can't have that difficult conversation because it's uncomfortable. They can't change their life because they're too attached to their current comfort. Musashi understood something profound. When pleasure controls you, you're weak. When pain controls you, you're weak. But when neither can control you, you're free. He trained this deliberately. Some days he'd sleep on soft grass, other days on hard rocks. Some days he'd eat well, other days just rice and water, not to suffer, but to prove to his mind that circumstances don't control him. Try this in your own life. I call it condition switching. One day, take a cold shower. The next, hot. One day, eat simple food. The next, eat what you enjoy. But here's the key. Maintain the same mental state regardless. You're training your mind to stay strong whether things are good or bad, because life will throw both at you. And if your mental strength depends on comfort, you'll break the moment things get hard. When comfort can't control you, discomfort can't break you. You become like water, maintaining your essence regardless of the container. This detachment from pleasure and pain creates space for the next level of mental training. Principle 3, the 1,000 days rule. Musashi wrote, 1,000 days of training to develop, 10,000 days of training to polish. Let me translate that. 1,000 days is roughly 3 years. 10,000 days, 27 years. He's telling you exactly how long it takes to build an unbreakable mind. Everyone wants the shortcut, the 30-day transformation, the weekend seminar that changes everything. Musashi is laughing at you. 3 years just to develop, 27 years to master. Here's what he actually did. Every single day, he practiced the same downward cut with his sword. Not different moves, not fancy techniques, the same cut, thousands of times, every single day. Why? Because he understood what nobody wants to accept. You become what you repeat, not what you think about, not what you plan to do. what you actually do every day for years. But here's the part that matters for your mind. He didn't just repeat sword movements, he repeated mental patterns. The same response to fear, the same response to anger, the same response to doubt, day after day after day. Most people can't stick to something for a week. Musashi did it for decades. And that's why his mind was unbreakable while yours gets shaken by a bad day at work. Want to build this? Pick one mental practice, just one. Maybe it's how you respond to criticism. Maybe it's how you handle stress. Maybe it's how you make decisions. Doesn't matter what, matters that you pick one. Then do it every day, not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient. Every single day. Miss one day? Start over. That's how serious this is. After 1,000 days, 3 years, it stops being something you do. It becomes who you are. Your mind doesn't have to think about it anymore. It's just how you operate. What you do for 1,000 days becomes who you are forever. And most people never do anything for 1,000 days. That's why most people have weak minds. This repetition builds to something most people never discover. Principle 4. Respecting without depending. In Dokudo, Musashi wrote, "Respect Buddha and the gods without counting on their help." Now, before you misunderstand, this isn't about faith or prayer. Musashi was talking about something completely different. He was talking about human dependencies. He visited Buddhist temples throughout Japan, learned from monks, studied their mental techniques, but he never stayed, never became dependent on their systems, never waited for a teacher to solve his problems. Think about what this really means. Most people respect something by becoming addicted to it. They find a mentor and can't make decisions without them. They find a system and fall apart when it fails. They find a method and become its slave. Musashi learned from everyone but depended on no one. He'd study with a master, take what worked, and leave. No attachment, no dependency, no weakness. Look at your own life. That guru whose every word you follow. That book you treat like gospel. That coach you can't function without. That system you're terrified to change. Every human dependency weakens your mind. Because what happens when your mentor is wrong? What happens when your perfect system has flaws? What happens when your teacher isn't there? You break with it. Try this self-reliance audit. List everything you think you need to function at your best. Your tools, your routines, your advisors, your systems. Now deliberately function without one of them for a week. Watch your mind resist. That resistance shows you where you're weak. The goal isn't to abandon useful things, it's to use them without needing them. Learn from teachers without becoming their follower. Use systems without becoming their slave. Respect knowledge without surrendering your judgment. Respect everything, depend on nothing. That's true power. Because now you can learn from anyone, use any tool, follow any system, but your strength comes from within. These 4 principles create the foundation for the ultimate state. Principle 5. Never stray from the way. Musashi's last written words in Dokudo weren't about some secret technique or profound wisdom. They were about something nobody talks about, consistency. He wrote, "Never stray from the way." That's it. 4 words. But think about what that really means from a man who lived these principles for over 30 years, every single day, through victories, through isolation, through aging, through everything. Most people get inspired for a week, maybe a month. They read something, get fired up, make changes, then life gets hard and they quit. They take a break, they need balance. They find excuses. Musashi never took a break. For 3 decades, he followed the same principles, walking alone, immune to comfort, 1,000-day repetitions, depending on nobody, day after day after day. But here's what everyone gets wrong. He wasn't perfect. You think he never felt weak, never wanted comfort, never wished for an easier path? Of course he did. The difference is he never strayed from the way. When you fail, and you will fail, most people quit. They think one mistake ruins everything. One weak moment means they're not cut out for this. One bad day, and they abandon the path. That's not how mental strength works. Here's the return protocol. When you break, you don't start over. You return. No guilt, no drama, no 3-week spiral of self-pity. You just return to the way. Same day, same hour if possible. Musashi understood something that took him 30 years to fully grasp. Mental strength isn't built in moments of inspiration. It's not built when you feel invincible. It's built in those moments when you want to quit but don't. When you fall, but get back on the path. When you're tired, but continue anyway. That's why most people never develop true mental strength. They're looking for the perfect moment, the perfect feeling, the perfect system. Meanwhile, Musashi just kept walking, imperfectly, consistently, relentlessly. Never stray from the way, not because you're perfect, but because the way itself makes you strong. Mental strength isn't built in moments of inspiration. It's forged through decades of never giving up. Look, these aren't motivational quotes you put on your wall and forget about. These are the actual principles Musashi lived by for 30 years. Every single day. He didn't write them for us. He didn't write them to sell books or get followers. He wrote them for himself at 60 years old, alone in a cave, preparing to die. That's why they work. They're not theory. They're what actually built the strongest mind in history. Most of you will watch this video, feel inspired for about 5 minutes, then go back to your weak patterns, back to needing validation, back to chasing comfort, back to quitting when it gets hard. But maybe one of you is different. Maybe one of you is sick enough of having a fragile mind that you'll actually do something about it. Start with walking alone, just that. Make one decision tomorrow without asking anyone. Sit with yourself for an hour without your phone. Face your own thoughts without running. Because everything else builds from mental independence. You can't be immune to pain if you need others to comfort you. You can't practice for 1,000 days if you need encouragement to continue. You can't depend on nothing if you can't even depend on yourself. The question is, are you ready to stop needing others to feel strong? Or will you close this video and go ask someone what they think you should do? The way is there. Musashi walked it for 30 years. Now it's your turn to decide if you'll take the first step.